Hello everyone, welcome to another lesson on trigonometric graphs. Today we're going to talk a little bit more about horizontal translation, and we're going to specifically talk about how to translate a curve horizontally as well as dilate it horizontally. So compress or stretch it after the translation. Okay, so what we want to do is firstly get you guys to answer this question to see that you have learned what is necessary to do the rest of the tutorial. So have a go at this question. Write an equation that will translate y equals cosine x by pi units to the right. Okay, so come back when you're done. So the answer to that is y equals cosine of x. Now to the right actually means minus pi. Now I know this is counterintuitive, but if you have done our previous tutorial, you should be able to see why to the right is actually negative or minus and to the left is actually positive. Okay, so if I type these two curves into Desmos, we should be able to see whether it's right. So you can see I have already typed in y equals cosine x. It starts at when x is 0, y is equal to 1, and the curve goes down to -1 at x is pi, and then goes back up to 1 when x is 2 pi. So these are the key points. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to translate this curve to the, what did I say? To the right by pi units. So I'm going to write cosine of x minus pi. And now let's have a look at our key points. We have originally when x is 0, y is 1. Now, when x is pi, y is 1. Originally we had when x is pi, y is -1, and now we have when x is 2 pi, y is -1. So the green line is the blue line translated to the right by pi units, pi radians, which is what we wanted. So that is definitely the answer. Okay, now in this tutorial I'm going to talk about what happens when you want to translate a curve as well as dilate it horizontally. So now that we have translated it, which is this curve here, if I want to dilate y equals cosine of x minus pi by a factor of 2. So what I want to see happen is the curve, the curve is going to, I'm going to get rid of the original one. The curve, instead of having a period of 2 pi, it's going to be compressed horizontally. So it's going to have, instead of one wave taking the space of 2 pi units horizontally, it's only going to take pi units. So the curve is going to look like this: down up within 2 pi units. So in order to do that, if you guys remember the tutorial on horizontal dilation, the tutorial said that if we have a curve y equals cosine of x, if you want to dilate it by a factor of 2, you have to multiply what was inside the bracket by 2. So it's going to give you 2 times the input, which is x. Now the similar thing is going to happen here, but because we've already translated it, the answer is actually 2 times whatever was in the input. So it's 2 times x minus pi. And that will dilate it by a factor of 2. So if you put in here y equals cosine of 2 times x minus pi, you can see here when it was originally one wave, now there are 2 waves in the space of one wave. So it has been compressed by a factor of 2. Now, usually we will write this equation out in expanded form inside this input here. So it'll be cosine of 2x minus 2 pi if we expand the bracket here. 2x minus 2 pi. Okay, so now that you guys know how to translate and dilate a graph horizontally, I'm going to give you a general form. Okay, so if you have an equation, given an equation, y equals cosine of actually, let's just give you the whole thing. Y equals a, sine or cosine doesn't matter, but let's say cosine, that could also be sine, b times x plus c plus d. Okay, so this is the general equation of all periodic curves. The cosine part can be sine, so y equals a sine bracket bx plus c plus d. Okay, the curve drawn will have, okay, an amplitude of a period of 2 pi over b, a period of 2 pi over b. Alright, horizontal translation of c over b. And the reason why it's not just c is I have already shown you guys over here, right? Because even though the translation to the right is pi, okay, because I have dilated by a factor of 2 in our example, the constant here in the bracket plus c is actually minus 2 pi, but the translation is actually minus pi. So to get to pi from 2 pi, you'd have to divide it by the coefficient of x. So that's why the horizontal translation of c over b, and a vertical translation of d. Okay, so that is a general equation, and we're going to continue with this concept in the next tutorial to answer some more practical questions. So hopefully you guys have learned something from this tutorial. Thanks for watching. See you next